For those that maybe don't know, I spend a great deal of my time switching back and forth between the Samsung Galaxy Fold 4 and the Microsoft Surface Duo 2. People often ask me, what is your primary phone? And I kind of have to answer based on where my SIM is that day. I may spend a week on my Duo 2, move my SIM over to the Fold 4, use that for a week, and I go back and forth a lot. And the reason it's because both devices pull me very strongly in their direction, but the reasons that they pull me in those directions are extremely different. So in this video, I'm going to kind of break that down. What pulls me towards my Surface Duo 2, which is where my SIM is currently, and what pulls me back towards the Z Fold 4, which is where my SIM had been for, I guess, around about a week prior. And maybe we'll start with the Fold 4 first. Honestly, one of the reasons I went back to the Fold 4 was because I got this really, really cool case and I wanted to be able to carry it around and use it. That may be superficial, but it is what it is. But once I get my SIM back in the Fold 4, there are things about it that I really, really do like. But the biggest things about the Fold 4 that I really like is not necessarily the device itself, which I do really like. It's almost got more to do with the Samsung ecosystem and how incredibly strong that ecosystem is. Because when my SIM, my main SIM is in my Fold 4, well, what goes on my wrist is going to be my Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. What goes in my pocket is my Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. And all in all, that just makes for a really nice experience. Now, for a long time, I was basically a mix and match Android user, right? I would have whatever Android phone I was daily driving in my pocket, but then I would have, some Android watch that might have been Mobvoi, it might have been Fossil, and then a set of earbuds, could have been Soundpeats, could have been Soundcore, Anchor, could have been, whatever it might have been. I was sort of mix and matching. And if you'd have asked me back then, how much do I care about the ecosystem? I would have said not very much, right? You look at Apple, they've got the Apple Watch, the AirPods, and people love the ecosystem. I didn't think that really mattered all that much to me. I was like, I was getting by just fine as it was, mix and matching, like I was saying. But that was really until I got the Z Fold 4, got the Buds, got the watch. And let me just tell you, that ecosystem does make a big difference. The synergy that you have between those devices is really, really nice. And of course, Samsung does an exceptional job with their software. Their apps that they have to control those devices and the devices themselves are all really, really top notch. If we look at my Fold 4, I can kind of demonstrate this really easily. Let's just go into the Galaxy Wearable app. And it's just really solid. My watch is turned off because I've switched off, so I've powered it off. But you can go into this app and you can customize all the settings on your watch right there. You can see all sorts of things about your watch, the battery, all of this stuff is really, really good. And while I do like my Mobvoi, my TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra, there is no argument that the Samsung app you're looking at is not miles ahead of what Mobvoi has, and it's miles ahead of what pretty much everyone else has on Android. I've used the Pixel Watch. I reviewed that on this channel. This app is just better than what Google has for their Pixel Watch. It just is. If we go into this side here, let's open up my Buds 2 Pro so that they'll connect. And we can now switch over to that now. And again, the app is fantastic. You can change your noise controls. You can jump into the earbud settings, of which there are a great many, not to mention the fact that these buds are just probably the best earbuds that I own. They sound incredible. The controls work every time. The case is small, they're light, they're comfortable, they're fantastic earbuds. And the full package that comes together when you use them on a Galaxy Z Fold or any other Samsung Galaxy device, it's just really, really hard to beat. You wind up just being really engrossed in the Samsung ecosystem, and that's a good thing. They're all part of Samsung's version of the Find My network, where if you leave something behind, you can jump into the device controls and you can see where you left your each individual earbud should you have lost one at some point. All of this stuff. And I'm sure that there's even more stuff I'm not going to think of in the moment here to talk about, but they just work together so beautifully well. And that is something that is enticing to me. It's something that it draws me in to that device. And of course, like I've talked about, the Z Fold 4 is a fantastic device. I like multitasking. I like having multiple apps open at once. And as I've said before, the Z Fold 4 or anything in that Z Fold line, as far as phones you can buy in North America easily, I'm not talking about the Oppo Find N and these other things. I'm speaking more generally here. The Z Fold 4 is the second best multitasking phone on the planet, second only to the number one, which is the Surface Duo 2. It's really, really good. And of course, Fold 4 probably is faster in terms of just day-to-day usage. The camera is probably better in some ways, although not as much better as I think people tend to tell you. But still, the Fold 4 is a more well-rounded device, and it's really close in terms of that multitasking. So you may be asking yourself at this point, what does draw you back to Surface Duo 2? Why do you keep putting your SIM back in it? I've made a pretty strong case for the Z Fold 4. So what's the case for Surface Duo 2? Well, the first thing that needs to be stated is that in terms of day-to-day usage, there's probably a perception that Duo 2 is this exceptionally buggy, slow device when compared to something like the Fold 4, and that just isn't the case. The device is just about as fast as the Z Fold 4. And as far as bugs go, they're really on a similar level. I've seen quite a few bugs on my Fold 4 in the last few months with One UI 5. Now, granted, nothing crazy. Little things like the taskbar icons being shrunk down teeny tiny and get to rotate and rotate back. Things like that. Well, those are the sorts of things that Duo 2 users have been complaining about. And it's pretty similar over on the Z Fold. None of it's deal-breaking for me on either side, though. Really, really minor stuff. But like I said, day-to-day, moment-to-moment, Duo 2 is quite fast, as is Duo 1 in particular. Now, after Android 12L, things look really nice, and they run really nice. And yes, while I'm using my Duo 2, I'm wearing my Mobvoi TicWatch Pro 3 Ultra. In my pocket would be the Soundcore Liberty Air 4, I think. The most recent ones, I believe these are the 4s. There's a lot of things to try and remember, and those sound good. And this is still a pretty solid watch. It's not as good as having everything all Samsung over there, but it's okay. The thing that draws me back, though, is just using the device. I use it in such a different way than I do my Fold 4. I just behave differently with these two things, and I can kind of demonstrate that here. So we've got the Fold 4 here now. And of course, the Fold 4, like I said, is tremendous at multitasking. Let's open up the Play Store. I always use the same apps to demo. And then we're going to grab YouTube, and we can drag it up here, and we can split screen. And if you don't like how skinny that is, you can rotate it around, and you've got a really pretty solid multitasking experience. However, I will tell you, every time I go back and I use my Fold 4, I am surprised by how little I actually do this. What I wind up doing is I wind up quickly switching between apps using the taskbar. I wind up doing one big app at a time like that. Now, I can multitask, but like I said, there's something about the way this works that I would say 95% of the time, I'm doing one large app at a time. I can, but I don't. And yes, there's nifty gestures and things like that to multitask and all these things, but I just don't really use them all that often. I do one big app at a time. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a really nice big screen, and that one app looks tremendous. But like I said, I'm just using the phone in a different way. I also want to talk about the fact that the two screens on the Z Fold 4 are both sort of awkwardly sized, okay? Whenever I'm in any app, let's just do YouTube. This is sort of an awkward looking YouTube in a way, and it's similar to what we have on one screen of Duo 2, and we'll see it in a second, but it's maybe not totally optimal because it's just really big, right? Which is, it's a tablet, it's supposed to be big, but it makes it a bit awkward to use. You're definitely two-handing it. You can only see like one video at a time as you're scrolling through YouTube. And then when you're playing a YouTube video, you do have big black bars on either side. Let's just pick a video here. Convective Chronicles. He makes some great content. Let's go full screen here. And you can see there's black bars that are very, very large no matter how you orient the device. And then on the cover display, things are equally awkward. In fact, I have to have a sleek strip on here to be able to hold this device where I can shift and get to the notification shade with one hand. If I don't have that holding on, I have to two-hand the thing to be able to get to the notification shade. I can't reach anywhere close to that. And then on top of that, apps do look really weird on this cover display because it's just super narrow and super, skinny and tall, basically. It's like a TV remote. So both screens are really nice. They're 120 hertz and they're pretty, but they're both sort of awkwardly sized. They're not optimal for me. This is too skinny, and this, in a lot of ways, is just too big. And, you would normally say, well, it's big, you should multitask, but I don't end up multitasking. So I just end up having a really big screen. Now, of course, all of this is subjective. This is my experience, not yours. You're allowed to have a different one, and that's totally valid. Now, if we move to Surface Duo 2, obviously there are two screens that are the exact same size and dimensions. Let's open up YouTube, and we'll see how that kind of compares. Well, it's a bit better. I can see basically 2 videos at a time as I'm scrolling through YouTube, but I love the width of these screens. They're 4:3 aspect ratio. If you combine them into one big screen, it's 3:2, but typically you're on one screen at a time. So you're looking at 4:3. They're 90 hertz, which is fine. 120 would be potentially better, but 90 still looks nice and smooth to me. And of course, I can go into phone mode, and that's not going to change anything about how this device works when you're running a single application like I am now. But the biggest thing is that I am constantly using 2 apps at a time when I'm on my Surface Duo 2, because that second app is always right there at my disposal, ready to be launched at any moment. It's not a taskbar that I'm having to drag up. And there's something about maybe the way that my brain has been trained that when I see a launcher, I launch apps. When I see a taskbar, I switch apps, right? There's just something about the way that that works in my brain, okay? And maybe it's just because over here, when I tap a second app, it just launches in its own screen. And when I tap the taskbar, it switches what app is open. I'm not, dragging the apps up and split screening for whatever reason. I'm not here to necessarily explain to you the neurochemistry of why that is. I'm simply stating that it is what it is. When I'm on my Duo 2, I am constantly using 2 apps. When I'm on my Z Fold, I am constantly using 1 app. And to double back around to the screen aspect ratios, I would like to make it very, very clear. I prefer the screens on Duo to either one of the screens on Z Fold. They are a more comfortable aspect ratio to me. And I might miss that just as much as I miss the ease of multitasking and the way that this device gets me to behave. And I think that that's a really important thing to say about this device. I'm not picking up my Z Fold and thinking I'm going to use it differently than I use my Duo 2. The Duo 2 simply creates different behavior patterns in me that the Fold 4 does not. There is something magical about this device that I just cannot say the same for about the Fold 4. The Fold 4 is a normal phone with a really big screen. Duo 2 is something entirely different, and I keep banging my drum about this, but when I use it differently. Now, I need to wrap this video up because you may have noticed that Rosa's bed has gone from over here to over here. She's drug it across the floor, and she really, really wants to play this morning. It is 7:30 a.m., but she is ready to go. So I need to tend to her very, very quickly. So let me wrap this up. I would love nothing more than to see Microsoft do something really cool, like release a new set of earbuds. The Surface earbuds that they already have. There's an article that I think was just posted on Windows Central about how they're kind of abandoned. The firmware updates have stopped, and it is still overpriced. Even for $100, 2+ year old set of earbuds that weren't great to begin with, not a great buy. So Microsoft, put out a set of earbuds. Put out a good set of earbuds. And while you're at it, bring back the Surface Band. Bring back some kind of a watch-like thing so that I can get engrossed into a Surface ecosystem like I do with Samsung. And you know what? If you did that, I don't know that I'm ever going back to the Z Fold at that point. If you would give me accessories on the level and with the cohesive nature that Samsung offers, with the things I'm talking about that I absolutely adore about this device, you would win me over probably full time. Now, when we look ahead, the Google Pixel Fold on the horizon. Well, guess what? I've got a Pixel watch in this house. My wife has it on her wrist right now, but maybe I steal it from her and give her back one of her TicWatches that she really liked. And maybe those Google Pixel Buds Pro wind up in my pocket as well, and I'm doing the same sort of thing with Google, and I can compare. How does that compare with what Samsung offers? That's, I would say, a likely possibility, a probability even, as we head into early 2023 now. It's all going to be very, very interesting. But Microsoft, for me, I love your phone, but I would love even more to see you compete in that way. Continue committing to Android and bring out these accessories because we need them. There absolutely is something to the ecosystem way of doing things that Apple does and Samsung does. They do it for a reason, and that reason is because it works and it makes money. Guys, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button on your way out. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.